Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get to it. My apologies again for the tardiness, but I was talking, actually, Stephanie, the assistant director of the Duderstadt Center, and I were talking about the kind of 3D scene on campus and how we can keep things improving for you and maybe create some new courses, get some new content going, make 298 better. Debut semester, always a bit bumpy. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's see here. The homework that you're currently working on, I think we should go through and just make sure everyone's kind of on the same page. This homework, I think it's kind of a recurring bugaboo in a lot of my homeworks and classes that students kind of feel that the expectations are higher than they actually are. In this second problem, you just need to create two objects that you kind of view externally, okay? So an example of that is this big looming pyramid. Oh, you can't see anything. Let's get this hooked up. You have to imagine the pyramid. So press 2. Maybe I can just press it up here. Laptop. Let's go. There we go. All right. So things like this big looming pyramid, even this thing like this big kind of statue here, right? This kind of structure, this obelisk. These are examples of what you might build, but these things were built for a desert-themed rescue adventure game. So the question is, what kind of game are you thinking about for your future? What are you going to do for this final project that is coming up? Look, it's right there. Oh my goodness, this big, long project. Not that long. It's 2 weeks of work, but you get 3 weeks kind of to do it with the break in the middle. So it's coming up soon. So think about what kind of game you might want to make, what kind of story you might want to tell, what kind of characters you might want to have. And you are going to start little kind of chipping away and practicing for what you're going to want to make. If you make some really great stuff in homework 10, you'd better believe you can use it on homework 12. Now, we're going to want you to improve it, right? Upgrade it, make it look a bit nicer, or add some more stuff. But you can absolutely use things from your past that you've already made on that final project. We hope you will, actually. It's a good starting point. So, to be very clear, right? If you're making a game that's kind of a bit more maybe emotional, a bit more sentimental, a nice rich narrative story, maybe instead of making a big pyramid you're going to jump through, you're going to make a childhood home that you kind of revisit and you can walk around and talk about things inside. This does not need to be detailed, okay? Right? Just get a big object in, put a little bit of effort in so the graders don't scoff at it, and you will be just fine. 2 objects, okay? This could even be a character. We just need a big set piece object for your environment. The next thing you need to do for homework 2 is we want to see that you at least understand how to create an interior environment using this inverted normals technique. I got the feeling that people have forgotten what this is, or maybe they skipped the lectures or the homework where this came up. But we added a little tutorial video here just showing, this takes almost no time at all if you know what to click on in Blender. You can flip the normals, and this gives you a really, really great way to go in and create a nice interior environment. It doesn't need to be nice. It can literally just be a box, maybe with a few textures. That's it, okay? And then just put it in your environment, let your character, the snake, or whoever you've got, let them jump into it, and you are good to go. That's it. You got the points. Move on, all right? Of course, all of you are perfectionists, and so you spend 3 or 4 hours on it, right? Make it the best interior. So I think that's how some of my designs for homeworks go astray sometimes. I make these challenges, and the student maybe assumes that they have to really, I got to crush this one. No, you don't. We're just making you go through the exercise, okay? We just want you to exercise so that you can later really hit it hard and do a great job on the final project, okay? Editing the main menu scene, okay? Go back to the main menu. I want to see something cool on the main menu. You got some big environmental objects, put something there. You've got a cool character, put it there. Customize it somehow, all right? Move the cameras around. This is pretty much all you got to do, not too much. the continue screen, okay? Get the player hyped to go try again. Put some new characters in there. Put a cool background out there. Make it look intimidating, scary, whatever mood you want, go get it. And just making it tiny little changes, as long as we can, like, the grader notices that you changed something. Technically, I think that's all this section asks for. Make a web build, and that's all your points, okay? Right then and there. So if you have questions about how much you need to do, you can ask these questions on Discord. We're not really using the Piazza this semester. I created one, but we're not really using it very much, I don't think. So don't ask there. But when you ask questions, especially the debut semester, it gives me a huge hint as to where my guidance is lacking. Because if you polish a game up enough, or if you polish a course up enough, eventually people just stop asking questions. They just don't, have a lot of things they're getting confused on. And that's kind of like educator nirvana. Because then I can just show up, do the lectures every week, no questions to answer. No one comes to office hours, so I'm just chilling, just talking about stuff. You can always come to office hours if you have general questions. You want to talk about the industry, you want to talk about anything else, you can always do that, by the way. And that's it, okay? So anyway, yes, please ask questions if you can. This homework is not designed to be too tough, but I'll tell you, okay? I see a lot of people knocked out this first problem. You got too cocky, okay? You got too cocky because the following problems require a bit more time. In fact, the last two problems require quite a bit of time. So definitely don't knock out the first three problems and think you're home free because that exercise you did bringing in tofu last week, a lot of students said that took quite a bit of time. Well, you're going to have to do it twice. The good news is that we got a lot of footage for you to help you through it if you get off the rail. And you're also going to be faster. You're just going to be flat out faster at this. And we need to get faster at this because you're going to have to do it a few more times on that final project, okay? And we're going to expect maybe a little bit higher quality on that final project, all right? Okay, anyway, any questions on the homework 10? All right, cool, rock and roll. All right, so let's keep going. Today, we don't have a ton to talk about, but I do want to talk to you about a pretty cool topic. This is the topic of playtesting. Playtesting. My 494 students are like, oh, okay, I already kind of seen this before. But playtesting, for those of you who haven't taken 494, is an extremely important topic because very soon, you see this playtest right here on the schedule? You might have been looking ahead in time and you see this, you're like, what is that? Well, this is going to be a no lecture day. We don't have a lecture on these days. Why? Well, it's going to be because you are going to have to play test other students' homework. Okay, so this homework 10 that you're working on, that custom character that you're bringing in, those big environmental objects you're making for problem 2, you're going to have footage, let's play style footage of 5 of your classmates playing through that web build you submit at the end. And you're going to get to see them react to it. You're going to get footage of them reacting, okay? You might get some ideas for how you might do better next time. Hopefully that'll be really fun, right? We make games, we make cool characters so other people can enjoy them. And so we're going to be doing that from here on out. To give you the time to do those Let's Plays, we won't have lecture on those days. You can come here and do them if you want to. You can stay home and do them from your laptop if you want to. I think the way this is going to work is we're going to have a kind of a document be auto-generated. And it's going to just tell you, like, hey, this week you play these 5. And it's going to link to those games for you. Hopefully it'll be really nice. Hopefully not super buggy. We'll see. And then you're going to get points for doing that because the first problem on homework 11, guess what? The first problem on homework 11 is this. And all you get excited seeing problem 1 of 2? Yeah, don't get too excited, okay? I'm not finished yet. I'm just getting started. So there's going to be more problems than that, almost certainly. But it should be kind of a fun homework, not super hard or anything like that. We'll see. But does anyone know, have I shown this to you before? This footage right here, this image? I didn't show you this? Oh my goodness. If you become an indie a like hardcore indie game developer, or an indie filmmaker. You are going to be traveling. You're going to turn into the traveling circus, okay? Because you're going to have hardware and equipment and games. You're going to have like tablecloths and goodies and giveaways, business cards and prizes and t-shirts that you take to events. Comic cons. Anyone go to Comic Cons, anime conventions? Okay. And you set up a booth kind of like this, what you're seeing. And right here, I've got my game Greek Tragedy, which has not sold many copies at all. Very sad. It's just, I'm not much of a marketer, am I? It's good thing I'm not teaching in the Ross School of Business, huh? Anyway, you set up a bunch of stations like this, and you're trying to get as many people through and playing the game and giving feedback as you can. That helps spread awareness for your game. And one of the reasons the game is sold poorly is that this was from 2023, when the game was actually getting some notoriety and people were interested in it. We waited too long. We were too late. The porting process, localization took quite a long time. So, even by that time, the art style was getting a little bit, played out. Okay, lots of low poly indie games out there these days. Still fun time though. Anyway, you bring your game to big events like this, and you get just a massive amount of feedback about what's resonating with people, right? What parts of the game are hard or confusing? Which characters are the most popular? Okay, you're going to sell the most merchandise for them, right? And stuff like that. Yes?
So a lot of games that are like really established now did that more in the earlier days, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was hearing that about it's still kind of not as big as it was, but Conker's Bad Fur Day, I heard they did a lot of that.
Interesting. So in Conker's Bad Fur Day was definitely kind of a very early 2000s or late 90s game when there were still a lot of trade shows. Big companies like Rareware at the time and Nintendo. Wait, that was not a Nintendo game, was it? Did Nintendo publish Conker's? Conker's Bad Fur Day is a very kind of vulgar game. It's like, let's take the cutesy, adorable mascot platformer, the kind of games you're making, and let's make a very kind of vile character who's like just dropping cuss words, all the time, and doing really strange levels. Anyway, that game, I would think they would take it to places like E3 and Tokyo Game Show and some of the other events, but I would never call that an indie team. So indie, the kind of indies that this is a little bit more similar to would be like Fez, 2D puzzle platformer, early days of indie games, Braid, Super Meat Boy, things like that. I don't think Undertale did a lot of these circuits at all before. Toby Fox kind of had a bit of a following before he released Undertale due to his modding work, so I don't know if he had to release it. I don't know if he brought it out to a bunch of the events or not. But anyway, a lot of indies do it these days. The Ann Arbor District Library has a yearly game convention where the local devs bring their games and show them off. Devs bring games like this to IGDA Ann Arbor, which happens monthly downtown. And you get a lot of feedback that way too. But in any case, playtesting is a super, super big deal. And I'll tell you what, I should have done way more of it, and I should have done it way earlier. So we knew what was really resonating with players. Because the final game just isn't that viral, okay? Just doesn't have that viral magic. And that's something that I got to improve at. I got to get better as an artist too. Okay, so some quick shilling, because it's almost backpacking and course registration time. Not everyone is going to be eligible to take these courses, but if you are an engineering student, EECS 494 is kind of our main game dev course at the University of Michigan. It teaches you how to go from zero, knowing nothing about game dev, to being very familiar with Unity game engine and C#, importantly, within about 4 months. You make a big game and you release it at a big showcase event. You can kind of see some of the stuff here that happens. Oh, I was playing my game right up here. Big showcase event, right? And this is the kind of course that definitely, if you're an engineer, is going to help you build your portfolio and get internships. Next week, I think on Monday, I'm going to tell you how you as 298 students can get extra credit for helping out some of the 494 teams. Build a couple models for them, maybe a character. Boom, you're going to get a big chunk of points. And you can put another big game that you didn't have to program on your portfolio because you did some of the art for it, right? Rock and roll, sounds good to me. So in this course, EECS 298, we are not building our own components, right? I wrote the components for you in C#. You just have to kind of creatively put them together and use them and tweak them. But if you want to learn how to build your own components from scratch, which is a very powerful thing to be able to do, then 494 is going to teach you that, okay? Oh, my slideshow isn't moving. You know why? This is usually a slideshow. It's because the game thinks I'm trying to play the game. So for performance reasons, it turned this off. Yeah, so if I hit escape to end the game and I come back here, now we're going to get the slideshow. There we go. Yep, super fun, good time, all right? Kind of a hard course, but very worth it if you're into it. And taking this course first will make 494 easier by a mile. Here's a very hardcore engineering course as well. This is a course called Game Engine Architecture, in which you learn to build your own version of Unity from scratch. Now, it's a 2D version of Unity, but this is a course where you start with a text adventure game, and you learn how to program very efficiently in C++. You build a high-performance C++ core, and then you add the Lua language on top of it. Lua is a very friendly language, so you really love making games in Lua, but it's a very slow language. So, well, it's not that slow. So C++ for performance, Lua on top of it, you learn how to make your first multi-language piece of software, which is really a very powerful moment. You learn how to write C++ that can render to the screen. You learn how to integrate lots of different C++ libraries, like Box2D, the Angry Birds physics engine, into your own game engine. Right? You learn design patterns, how to keep it all very clean, nice, clean C++ code. You also learn data-oriented programming, which is kind of a high-speed rival to object-oriented programming, which if you're an engineer, you've already heard of before. In any case, you end the course with your own game engine that you can actually make real-deal games in, as you can see up here. Like that for the engineers, like this is the course that gets you a job, right? I went to China and over the summer, and I was in Hangzhou, and I was talking to some of my students at like the big Chinese game studios, NetEase, right, Tencent Games. There was a startup, a Chinese game engine startup, which was really cool. And they said straight up, yeah, Austin, like that course just got me the job. I didn't even have to do a whiteboard interview. They just wanted to talk to me about my engine I made. And yeah, that's exactly what you want to hear, okay? Go through all the effort of creating a course. You're really glad it's just useful. Anyway, so engineers, this is definitely one to look at. Upper level CS course. Don't take this with other super hard courses, but we are making the course easier all the time. So it will not destroy you. We got another professor looking at my syllabus. That's kind of cool. Hi, Cole. Take a little screenshot for fun. Okay, so game engine architecture, engine progression slide. Yeah, your engine really just evolves like crazy over time. We'll build our own engine, okay? And you go through all these steps week by week, and it just keeps getting more advanced and more configurable, more expressive and higher performance. Just cool as heck, okay? Creating that course almost killed me. Ask me about that in office hours. Okay, EECS 440, the last bit of shilling I'll do, and then I'll be quiet about this, I promise. EECS 440 is another course that the engineers are looking at and might take. This is a much lighter course. This is my easiest course. I think even a little bit easier than EECS 298 is. It will teach you Unreal Engine, which is a big deal, okay? If you are an engineer, you gotta know Unreal Engine. You gotta know Unity. And it's really nice if you've made your own engine as well. So this course will teach you Unreal Engine. It is about making VR and AR apps for social impact. So what does that mean? Well, that means you can make a game if you want to. But how about a fitness game. Urban Rush. You're running through a cool city. You've got monsters, zombies you're hitting. You're grabbing coins. It is a good time. Okay? Urban Rush, right? So you've got a Unreal Engine environment you created. Most of these are asset packs because the students haven't taken 298. You're ducking under obstacles. You're jumping up to grab coins, right? It's a really good time. It's about like this. This is only exaggerated a little bit. Big workout, okay? One really cool thing is that they use the level design to make you do things that in an actual fitness class you would be doing. So they can put one of these barriers up above you to get you to kneel. And then if they put a coin in the air behind that barrier, you have to kneel to get under the barrier, and then you have to jump up to grab the coin. And then there's another barrier, so you have to kneel again, and then jump up, and kneel, and jump up. And what did they just get you to do? Our clever level designers just got you to do like a bunch of squats. Incredible. Except it's way more fun than just doing squats, right? Okay, anyway, so kind of cool stuff. We got other projects you can check out here. Driver Ed is a really good one. This one teaches you how to learn how to drive. Driving school, but it's in VR, right? So you are getting scored, you're getting tips, and if you make a horrible mistake, you haven't hurt someone in the real life. You've just hurt someone virtually, okay? So that's kind of a big deal. Face AR, my link is broken, but it's a super cool one. They use AR and your mobile phone to let you play mini games using like your facial muscles. So jump looks like this. Watch this. This is the jump of the game. It's kind of funny, right? But actually, this is a very serious deal if you have lost half of your face's motor skills. Maybe you had a stroke. My grandfather had a stroke, right? I wish this kind of thing was around for him. And it's all these things we're making, but instead of just going for pure recreation, or to tell a story, we want that too, but you're trying for some sort of social impact cause. Whatever is important to you, you're going to make a VR or AR app to try and address that, okay? We run that one once per year. Okay, that's all the shilling I have for you. Do you have any questions before we hit the main content? Okay, yes?
How many of these require spinning?
All of them. Yeah, 281 is just like the keys to the kingdom. Like you got to get 281 knocked out as fast as you can, okay? That's definitely my recommendation. But I will say, many of these courses are actually usually regarded as being a little bit easier than 281. So once you get through 281, things actually get really fun if you're in the computer science department. It's just like the world opens up, right? And you can really customize your experience if you want to. Just be very careful about which ones you add together, because some of these are really hard, some of these are totally chill, and you just don't want the really hard ones to just pile on a semester, right? Yes?
I know taking 494 and 498 together isn't a good idea, but what about...
People have done it.
Oh.
And it's like, ooh, okay, they survived. But that's the only thing I can say, because it was not particularly pleasant.
What about 494 and 440?
440 is pretty light. So you can combine that with just about anything. The thing, though, is that 440 is not an upper-level CS course. It is another capstone. Typically, you would take either 494 or 440. If you are a game dev, if you want to go into virtual reality, if you want to do visualization work, you should probably try and take both. Most people will take one or the other. Okay? Okay, any other questions? Final questions? Yes?
Do you need to have any programming background for any of these classes?
So these three classes all require you to have gotten through EECS 281, or you can take them if you convince me you have enough programming knowledge to kind of get through safely. They're very hardcore programming classes. They have to assume, due to the amount of time we have, we really need you to come in with some knowledge. If you do a bunch of projects in Unity, like I would start to move toward, okay, let's give them a shot. But yeah, I know it's frustrating. right? Like I think one day we'll have a bunch of game dev courses that you can take without any prereqs, kind of like 298 style. But that day is not today. Someone else is going to have to make those courses, I think. We'll see. Okay, any other questions? Final questions? Okay, all right, everyone. We have playtests coming up in this course, and playtesting is actually a really, really, really big deal. You are not creating a calculator app, okay? A calculator app, it's really easy to say whether the calculator app is working or not, okay? It either adds the math properly or it doesn't. It either crashes and bugs out or it doesn't. You are in a creative discipline, which means that what the final product and goal is not obvious. All right, sometimes we don't even know whether we have a good game this week or not. Will people like it? Will they not? We don't know. All right. And so we're going to discover that playtesting, getting feedback from other people regularly, not just grades from your instructors, is absolutely essential for making something that people actually enjoy. All right. It's one thing to just do the stuff the assignment asks for and get the boxes checked and get the points. It's another thing to make something that's really going to impress your friends and family, something that's going to satisfy you as an artist, okay? And something that's going to look good in your portfolio, get you interest from employers, all right? So this is something we absolutely need to spend some time talking about. Right here, you see actually something from my past. You see my EECS 494 final project. And you can see something really interesting about this final project. You can see these lines, right? These lines that seem to just kind of curl around, right? What are those? What could they be? What are they telling us? We'll talk about that in just a bit. What is the point of playtesting? What is the point of user testing? User testing, playtesting, this is not a cheap thing. It takes time, it takes money. What are we getting out of it? What's the ROI?
Valuable feedback.
Feedback. Valuable feedback. Why is it valuable?
So that when you've been looking at something for too long, you kind of know what it looks like. You need a second set of eyes.
Yes, definitely. So my games are typically very hard, much like my courses. But when I was young, this wasn't really happening on purpose. A quick story from my childhood. So I started making games in, I think, middle school, maybe like 6th or 7th grade. I discovered a program called Game Maker, one of the early off-the-shelf game engines. It's still a popular game engine today. If you've heard of a game called Undertale, that was the technology behind Undertale. And one thing I would do is I would spend the weekend making a game or making some more levels, and then I would put it on a flash drive, and I would bring the game to my middle school and my high school later. And I would just kind of drop the game onto the desktops of each of the computers, and so people could find it and they could play it, right? And what happened was that people would come back, Austin, the game is awesome, but it's way too hard. I couldn't get past the first level. Dude, you got to cool it. And I think, no way, it's easy. Like, let me just show you. And I just beat the level for him like nothing. Dude, you're not getting it. And I wasn't getting it. Here's what would happen. I would make the game. And as I was making the game, I would be playing it more and more, right? You make the game, you play the game. And my skill level would increase. Well, what happens when your skill level increases? You're playing this level over and over and over again, which means you're getting really good at it, which means you're getting so good at it that... What's up?
And you're like, no one can play your game.
It's getting too easy for you, right? You play your game over and over again, it's getting too easy. And so it's not fun for you anymore. So what do? You make it harder. But you keep playing the game. You keep playing that level. Even though it's harder now, it gets easy for you again. And you make it even harder, right? You are only playtesting with yourself. And as a result, you are getting super biased feedback all the time. And that leads you to when the fateful day finally comes and someone finally play tests outside of your team, outside of yourself, they get annihilated, absolutely crushed, okay? And so a lot of my early games were outrageously hard. You think my current games are hard, you see nothing, okay? So why do you play test? That feedback really is extremely valuable. Feedback is a flicker of light, and we are in a dark cave, okay? The creative process is a deeply dark cave. Hey, that's where all the treasure is, right? But we need a flicker of light. We need our little lighter, okay, to give us a glimpse on occasion of where we need to go, which direction to go in, as we feel our way around. Playtesting is so important that all the biggest companies and corporations, even some academic institutions, have playtesting laboratories, okay? You're looking at, I think, half of the 343 Industries laboratory. What does 343 Industries do? Make the Halo games, okay? And I think, I can't remember, but I think one of my students who worked on the Halo 4 and 5 sent me this image. I don't know that, though. I think they sent me an image, but I'm not sure if it's this one. And what would happen, and this would happen in Electronic Arts too, is that the team has a game build that they're ready. They make a web build, right? Not a web build, but kind of like you're making builds in Unity. And they say, okay, we got the game ready to go, and they would call in a bunch of fans. And they would call in a bunch of family members of the development team who hadn't really seen the game much. They would have them sign NDAs, okay, don't tell anyone what you saw, and don't leak the game, don't take any photos or anything. And they would have them sit down and play the game. And while they're playing, the players are being monitored. Their footage is being recorded. Often they have a camera kind of facing out so they can gauge your reactions emotionally to what you see. If you get stuck on something, they're going to see that as well. Okay, the players can't get through the game. Why can't they get through the game? We need to make it a bit easier. Or we need to put a toad in the hallway to remind people to go backward to the vertical shaft. Okay? I hate it when that happens. But that's like what you discover. People play the game, get a lot of data, and then you can iterate the game. And so here we are with the first version of my final project back in the day. It used to be that EECS 494 was the only course on campus teaching game dev. It was that way for quite a while. And this was my project back in the day. I was making a game called Hell's Spells. It was a game where you played as a witch or wizard, and you would collect a spell at the beginning of the game. You kind of spawn into this room with 3 teammates. It was an online multiplayer game. And you'd get a spell, you'd run out into the field, and not much. Okay, actually, we would start spawning in enemies, skeletons, and stuff like that, and you just kind of run around in a circle with your head cut off, like a chicken with its head cut off, and you just kind of run in a circle and shoot the enemies. That was it. That was it. And you know what was really interesting? People were saying that we had the best game. They were saying that, but their body language wasn't. Okay? They would start playing the game, and we'd like say, oh, okay, do you like the game? How's it going? They say, oh yeah, Austin, this is really good. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, this is a cooperative game. You're not even talking with your teammates. Like, you look like you're having a bad time. And yeah, they were kind of having a mediocre time, actually, but they didn't want to tell me that, okay? Some of them were my friends, and many of them respected me. They didn't want to tell me my game was garbage, even though it was. And I could have used the honest feedback, but it's hard to give honest feedback sometimes. Okay, so what I did was I wanted to get more data. Okay, I had a suspicion that our map was a problem in our game. And this was our first version of our map. And what we did was I wrote some code in Unity that would kind of track where you walked. So every second we would store your vector 3, your X, Y, and Z position. And your 3D position, we could then render it inside of Unity. You can see it's Unity. You can see the tile grid back there. And we could actually render and show where people walked and where they went in the previous session. Now, it seems really obvious now, but there was a lot of fish to fry, and it was hard for me to prove that the map was the thing we should focus on next, because we had a lot of things we had to fix. But this really helped convince my team that we needed to work on the map. We got to assign someone to spend all week making a better map. And you can actually see here that people would just pour out into the center and they would just run around with their head cuts off and they would do nothing. Very boring, okay? Some of the players got so desperate for anything interesting that they actually started to explore the map and look behind the buildings. Oh my gosh, maybe the fun is back here, okay? Or back here. And they were disappointed every time. So this gave us a strong hint that we had to upgrade our map. And so we did that. We did a bunch of things. So we had a new map. And this new map, if you notice, there's not a central area to just kind of get bogged down in. There is this central fountain right here, but it's not a huge space. There are lots of nooks and crannies, alleyways, and stuff like that. And we gave the players a reason to explore. If you look really closely, you can see this little orb here, and there's another one right here. It's a team of 4. If the 4 players are able to collect all 5 orbs, which we randomly hide, then a resupply of weapons and spells and ammo will descend from the heavens at the fountain at the center. And then the orbs respawn and you can split up again to go find the orbs if you need another resupply. But what this did was it created a really interesting dynamic flow to gameplay. Players would begin to run low on ammo and weapons and health. And so they would have to make a decision. Will we split up to grab the orbs and find them faster? It's risky. We might get overcome by a big swarm of enemies. Or we can all stick together, all 4 of us, but it's going to take a while, right? We might not be able to get the resupply before we run out of ammo, of mana. And so there was a lot of decision making. The teammates actually had to talk. And if one group got in trouble, they would have to yell at each other, bail me out, we need a backup. Backup right now on the east side of the map, right? And people got into it. They were very excited. They were engaged all of a sudden. And then once they got all the orbs, they were split up. The team would reconverge at the center for a grand battle. And that's when we could launch the boss character to come out. Because we knew all the players were going to be right there. They just got fresh new weapons. Let's go. Okay, perfect time. And then they would split up again. Split up, come back together. Split up, come back together. The flow was much improved. And the teammates actually had things to debate and talk about mid-game. The data, we didn't collect a lot of it, but we did collect some. The data suggested that players were now actually exploring the map. They actually had a reason to. And so the game was much better received. Okay? Much, much better received in this version. An example of playtesting saving the entire game. Okay? So you might say, Austin, it's obvious the map was a problem. But again, we had a lot of fish to fry. And our mission was going to be to prioritize things and figure out what had to change first. So we might have run out of time to change the map if we hadn't done playtesting and collected the data. So this is the iterative design process. You've heard me mention this a few times, this idea that you want to make a change, test, make a change, test, make a change, test. And you just kind of inchworm your way to a better experience, like little piece by piece. Well, this is that concept, the iterative design process, but formalized. This is a passage from Jeremy Bond's book, Introduction to Game Design and Prototyping in Unity. And the idea here is you analyze what your problem is, okay? And then you design a change. You think, okay, I'm going to change this, all right? In the 3D platformer you're making, you could, okay, I'm going to put another platform. I'm going to design another platform right in my gap, because I think the jump's too hard, right? And then you implement it. You actually clone the object. You move it to the right place. You test it. You say, hey, friend, come over here, okay? We're doormate. Okay, come over here. And you just have them play the game. And if they get through the game, you say, no, excellent. You tested. It made the game better, probably. So now you can analyze it. Now what is my next biggest problem? Now what can I go and try and fix? You design a fix, you implement it, you test it again. You figure out what's wrong now. You design it, you implement it, you test again. You just keep going around this process. And if you do this enough times, you'll eventually end up with a game that is good. that works for a lot of people, at least your target audience. Hopefully that's the people you've been testing with, okay? And so when it comes to playtesting, we're dealing with this left half of the graph here, the analysis and testing part. If we have bad data, we don't know if our game got any better or not. We can assume it did, but that's a dangerous assumption, okay? Very, very dangerous. It's very easy to work for many months on a new feature, only to find out the feature is bad. It made the game worse. And you just wasted months. If only you'd play tested earlier, you might have wasted weeks instead of months or years, okay? Very dangerous. So this can also help you find technical issues, not just design issues, but playtesting to find bugs is really important. So what do you see right here? I'll give you a hint. This is the ground floor of the starter building that you saw, okay? This building right here. Players actually, they spawn up here, which is why you can see all the lines. But you can also see some lines down here, and you see lines going between the two floors, right? What does that suggest? If you see this as a game developer, you're like, wait a second. Because what does this imply? It's actually kind of creepy if you think about it. What does this imply? What's that? Maybe. What this is saying is that somehow we have players going through the floor, which is not something that like floors usually let you do. So this turned out to be a bug where one of our spawn points where players could spawn in was actually slightly buried in the floor. Okay, usually you put a spawn point, your checkpoint flag, usually you put it slightly up into the air, tiny bit, because you don't want your character to spawn in and have them already be like midway through the floor. If you do this, most of the time, the physics engine of Unity will actually push the character up out of the ground and resolve the problem. But sometimes the physics engine would do the opposite, and it would actually push the player through the floor to resolve the problem. Well, that's bad news, because this bottom floor, this ground floor, does not have an exit door. So you'd start the game, so pumped to play this awesome-looking game, Hell Spells, and you just end up soft-locked. You are soft-locked, you cannot move, you are trapped here. Sorry, kid, your team is moving on without you. That stinks, okay? That stinks really bad. Fix was easy. Just take the spawn point upward a little bit, problem gone, okay? All right, what's the point? Why bother, okay? How many of you have played or heard of this game, Sims 4? Oh, it's a good one, okay? My latest game has sold very few copies, but this one has sold 30 million copies, so that makes me feel a bit better. But, so The Sims 4 had some issues, all right? Especially on launch, and I remember it pretty well. Can you see a problem here? Let me help you. I'm going to zoom in for you, okay? So, you may have a sense of what went wrong here, right? When a hand wants to grab an object, you kind of use a parenting setup, right? You use a parenting situation, and you parent the fork to the hand in a certain way. And so then when the hand moves, the fork goes with it, and it looks really natural. It looks pretty good. But that relationship broke here, and so the fork is just looking straight upward, which is a very common default pose for an object to be in. So this was a hard bug to fix. The good news was that the chances of this bug happening, a fraction of a percent. This was a very rare bug. And if you are an experienced game developer, you're already saying, oh no, because this is actually horrible news. The easier a bug is to replicate, the more consistent a bug is, the easier it is to fix. If a bug is only happening a small fraction of the time, that's a big, bad news for you. Okay, good luck with that one. Okay, the good news is that the bug almost never happens. The better news is that in its first week, I think The Sims 4 made 4 million in sales. So that's really good news. The team was, I still remember that launch party. Tons of alcohol everywhere. And I don't drink alcohol. So I was kind of the guy just kind of oh, I guess I'm chaperone or something. Anyway, whatever. All right. Yeah, I drank a little bit of alcohol just to fit in, I guess. It's fine. It just tastes not that great. Never has. I think some people just have that, right? Anyone else have that? Where it's like, you taste alcohol, this just tastes bad. Like, I don't know. Okay. All right. So 4 million sales, but there's a problem here. There's some really bad news. You know what the bad news is? Take these two numbers and multiply them. Okay? And suddenly, you have so many players that any bug, even ones that almost never show up, are now showing up everywhere. Okay? They're super common. This equates to 4,000 instances of the bug happening. And that is more than enough for you to get news articles written about your interesting bug. And generally, there's this idea that all press is good press. And, in certain situations that can feel true. In this situation, not really. Because even though this bug was harmless, it didn't really impact the gameplay at all. It just looked a bit funny. It contributed to a perception that The Sims 4 was a really buggy game that was unstable and you shouldn't buy it yet, which has financial implications for the company. And, it was kind of true. Okay, it was kind of a buggy game. That game had some very difficult development. It had a very difficult development process for some very interesting reasons. So ask me about it in office hours sometime, and I'll give you the details, okay? All right, I'll give you the details I remember anyway. So, some issues in playtesting. All right, so you are running a game studio. Congratulations, okay? Here are your team, all right? It's a great team. And you are about to launch a game, okay? Now, one day, you have one of your team members come up, and they tell you something, and maybe you want to hear this, or maybe you're a bit disturbed. Your developer, your teammate, comes up and says this, "Hey, stop panicking, don't panic, boss. It's all okay. Because I tested the game last night, this game is so good. This is the best game I've ever played." All right? And my question is, what do you feel about this? Yes?
There's probably a bias.
There's a bias. Explain.
If someone is working on something and they've tested, they will only see the good in what they put in.
Bingo. Okay? If you made the game, you are probably, no matter how much you try, though the more you dev and the better you are at Q&A, the better you are at dealing with this bias. But you made the game. You really want that game to be great, don't you? It would be great for your future if the game was a game of the year, you're winning awards, you're making tons of money, right? And so you will be inclined, at least a tiny bit, to believe your game might be better than it actually is, okay? Your teammates will feel that way. If someone invested in your game, gave you a bunch of money, you better believe they're going to think your game is the bee's knees, even if it's not, because they would rather, make money than not. So this is a very, very common thing. In fact, it's very well known in popular culture, so it makes it into jokes sometimes. This is a very famous scene in a very funny film called Dumb and Dumber. Jim Carrey's character, has come from a long way to ask, hey, would we be a good fit together, right? Can we be a thing? You want to be in a relationship? And he is going to be looking for a very particular answer, okay? And that is going to cause some problems. So pay attention to what Jim Carrey says here and how he reacts, because it's going to show you something very common about humans, how humans behave when they're looking for a certain outcome. Let's take a look.
What do you think the chances are of...
I want it louder. I want it louder. It's kind of a quiet video and always has been. Okay, let's try that. Ready?
What do you think the chances are of I like you and a girl like me when we get together?
Well, Lloyd, that's difficult to say. We really don't.
Hey, just give it to me straight. I came a long way just to see you married. Just Least you can do is level with me. What are your chances?
Not good.
Not good, like 1 out of 100.
I'd say more like 1 out of a million.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Technically, he's not wrong, but only technically. And being technically right is the worst kind of right that you can be. One of the reasons this joke never fails to get a bit of a giggle, right? So Jim Carrey's character is demonstrating something that is a very, very well-known kind of psychological phenomenon. It's called confirmation bias. If you take a course, an intro psych course, Psych 111 back in the day is what I took, you're going to run into topics like this, phenomena like this. In this joke, Jim Carrey wants to confirm something. Okay? He's very biased toward a certain outcome. He wants her to say, yes, we can be a thing. You got a chance, dude. And so the joke here is that Jim Carrey is going to say, hey, just be honest with me. I'm not going to be biased. I just want your straight answer. I came a long way for this. Give it to me straight. She gives it to him straight, and then he becomes extremely biased like that, okay? Your chance is 1 in a million, dude. And he's like, we're in it. Let's go. And one of the reasons, and I think this is one of the reasons a lot of comedy works, okay? This is a joke that tends to always work. It feels very earnest, and I think it's because it is genuinely trying to teach you something or remind you of something that is real. Okay, psychologists would watch this scene and really enjoy it, but most people watch this scene and find it relatable. This is not just a joke to be goofy. This is a joke that reminds you of a very important real-world psych concept. I'm a teacher, right? So I just see teaching and education in pretty much everything. But I think media that is trying to teach you stuff and give you more knowledge is media that tends to feel earnest. Like it's really on your side, right? This is a film that likes you and wants you to know about cool, interesting things in the world. I think that's why I like this joke so much and why so many people tend to. Anyway, confirmation bias is a very big deal. I'm going to skip this. This is more relevant to 494 teams. There are a lot of people playing games these days, okay? You know the number one rule of business is probably also the number one rule of art, maybe number two, because you're not always trying to make art for other people. And sometimes you're trying to mess with them. But it still works. That the number one rule of business, tell it to me right now. Art students, I know you can do this. This is your thing. On occasion, you find really good artists who are just crazy good at business. And you're like, my goodness, you are a unicorn, but you're amazing. But actually, I think they're connected. Because the better you are at business, the more work you're going to get as an artist. The more work you get as an artist, the better you'll become as an artist, which makes you a better business person. What a combo. What a combo. We talked about you being technical and artistic. We'll add a third thing in there, okay? Get really good at selling yourself and what you do. Don't ever be dishonest about it, right? But make sure that the stuff you make is going on a portfolio and you find places and venues to talk about what you've done. That's a really big deal. So the number one rule of business is to know your customer. And if you're trying to make art that has an impact on people, you need to know who your customer is, who your user is, your viewer, so that maybe you can mess with them if you want to, or if you want to please them and make them really happy, you can do that. If you don't know who you're making a game for, you're in big trouble, all right? It's a problem I've run into sometimes, even in course design. Sometimes I make a lecture that doesn't work for the audience, or I make a homework that's too tough, right? Because I didn't quite understand where everyone's mental model of the topic was. So in 2017, they've actually got much more recent data, but I haven't had a chance to grab it yet. In 2017, the average person who plays video games was 35 years old. That's a conclusion brought to us by ESA, Entertainment Software Association. This is kind of an industry lobbying firm that is supported by Nintendo, EA, Activision, Konami, Capcom, all the companies under the sun, basically. Riot Games, I think, these days. And so the average player is 35 years old, though there's a fairly big range. And you can see some of that down here, right? A lot of people in 18 to 35, a lot of people under 18. The average gamer is getting old. I think the latest data had it at like 40. So we're going to be some of the first generations to get like to retirement and be comfortable using the computer.
That's crazy.
Are there going to be sports leagues for like retirees playing League of Legends?
There already is.
There already is?
Japan.
No way.
Yeah.
Hold on. I want to see this.
Well, there's a team of like 150.
Seniors? North American players retired. Leaguepedia.
Well, those are just retired players.
Oh, okay. All right. It looks like we're not quite there yet, maybe, but I'd have to look more. Maybe you can DM, put it in the Discord server if you can find the link. There's going to be a big market opportunity for what kind of games do seniors want to play. And there's also going to be a lot of interesting social situations and memes, and popular culture is going to be affected. Popular culture is going to be affected by the idea that, you know, hey, Jim, right? Hey, Sarah, Bob isn't here for practice. Bob isn't here. Someone send someone to check on him. And then, like, you know, unfortunately, a week later, the team is attending the virtual funeral, right? Like, that's kind of morbid. That's coming. And it's also a topic that is interesting to think about, okay? Make some media about what that's going to be like. It's going to be just spicy enough to get some virality. Anyway, so know your customer, because a lot of people, time is always shifting. The customers are always changing. And a lot of big companies these days don't know their customer very well. And that gives you a huge opening, okay? Huge opening. 41% of U.S. gamers are women. That's gone way up in the latest data. I think it's like 45 now. And worldwide, it's like 48. Knowing who your customers are is a very, very big deal. And your customer base doesn't have to be everyone, okay? Often, if you're a big company, you target a massive customer base, as many people as you can, because like you're a big company, you got to make some serious money. But if you are a smaller team, it's really, really beneficial to choose a tiny little market that you want to target, okay? We've got some studios in the community that only make anime-style romance visual novel games. That sounds kind of specific, right? But the thing is, they own that market, okay? It's not a big market, but they own it. And they do a great job in it, and so they can be sustainable and make their small company continue to move and grow and pay their employees because they own that market and they know exactly what their customers want, all right? And they deliver exactly that. So I want to talk about types of playtesters, but I want to do this after we come back. So when we come back from the break, I'm going to talk to you about the different special types of playtesters you can have. Not every playtester is going to give you the same outcome at the same time, okay? And we're going to talk about some really cool technology that's being employed in playtesting to really get a view into what the player is thinking as they play the game, okay? So I'm going to throw some music on, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Use the restroom, do whatever you got to do, ask a question up here, whatever you want. See you in 5. Okay.
Oh, don't.
So the idea is like That's very funny. I was thinking of maybe just like having the limbs disconnected. You know, like I'll have like
Okay. All right. Calm down, everyone.
What?
Let's get to it. Okay, so types of playtesters, right? This is a pretty serious thing. We want to avoid confirmation bias. We want to dodge things like confirmation bias. We want the cleanest, most useful data we can get. But it's going to come at a cost. And so we have to be careful. Okay? The first person, the cheapest playtester you can possibly get is yourself. Yourself. Ultra cheap. How do you playtest with yourself as the playtester? How do you do it? What does it look like? Yes? Yes! You go up to the top of Unity, you see that little caret, that play button, you click the play button, and boom, your playtest just started. You're already getting data. But there's a problem. This data comes fast and it's cheap. You don't have to involve anyone else. You don't have to set anything up. Just click the button. But there's a big problem with this data. You better not get too into it. Because what happens? What's wrong with this data?
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias is a big one. Oh yeah, this is very biased data. Okay, you just implemented a feature, which means you're probably feeling pretty proud of yourself. You're going to see that feature's maybe being a little bit better than it actually is. You're maybe not going to test it for bugs all that much, okay? I mean, you programmed it right, so it's going to be fine. No bugs at all. One big one is the topic of player guidance. We already talked about that in this course, right? Talked about that in 494 as well. It's a big one, okay? We got a lot of 494 teams that are trying hard with their guidance, but it's a tough thing, okay? Very tough thing. And so, you know how your new game mechanics, you know how your level design is supposed to work. When I designed the 2 puzzles in the Daisy Tomb Rescue game, you know those 2 puzzles with the spikes deep in the tomb? I, in my head, thought it was going to go just fine. Why? Because I know that you do one puzzle, then you do the other puzzle, and then you go back to the vertical shaft. And there's another aisleway there, but that was a cut puzzle, a 3rd puzzle that I cut because I ran out of time. Well, guess what happened when all the students played the game? They solved one puzzle, they solved the 2nd puzzle, and then where do I go? And they didn't know to go backward. They thought the game was bugged because the wall that separates you from the 3rd puzzle, cut content, it's not even in the game, That they thought that was supposed to open, but nope, that's not supposed to open. In the latest version, it will open if you find a special key, but there are just some extra lives hiding there. It's kind of cool. And right, that's the kind of bias that can very easily creep in. It creeps in very fast when you're playtesting only by yourself. And pretty soon, your game is in a much different state, actually, than what you think it is. All right? Very, very hard to judge guidance when you made the game and know exactly how to play the game. Your team is the next place you can go. Now, in this class, we don't really have teams. And I thought about giving you teams, but I really wanted each of you to go through this experience yourself and to build everything yourself. You kind of have implicit teams, right? You're all friends, you're kind of helping each other out. I want you to do that. Just don't copy anything, right? You can definitely look at each other's stuff and take inspiration. Just don't literally copy the file over. But if you have your team playtest, you're going to get higher quality data, right? A little bit higher quality because your teammates don't know about the new thing you built. You're going to find out whether it's easy to use or not. But there's still a problem. How high quality? We know the data is higher quality, but is there a problem with it? Your team is playtesting your game.
That's
The same issue, but to a lesser extent, right? So your teammates are biased still. They have confirmation bias because their lives would improve dramatically if you did a great job, right? Well, I mean, their lives would improve. So they have a strong incentive to believe that their team member did a great job, when in fact, maybe they didn't. Maybe the feature is actually not great. It's quite bad. So it's also a bit of a pain because your team is not as easy to playtest with. If you have a team member, what do you have to do to get a playtest going? It's not as easy as just clicking the play button, is it? You have to do that, but you also have to do other stuff, right? What do you have to do? Yes?
Like meet with them.
Yeah.
Fill out the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So you have to go meet with them so you can watch them, or you have to send them the link on Discord, and they might not see your message for a while. They might be busy doing their laundry. And so they can't play your game right now, but I'll get to it when I can, okay? And then your schedule gets too packed, and you just end up waiting several days to do a play test, okay? So it's a little bit harder to get that going, but the quality of the data is a little bit better, all right? Next, going up the chain, we have a really good sweet spot. This is friends and family. Friends and family. If you need to get some pretty good playtesting data that is pretty cheap to get, friends and family are where you go. So you grab that web link and you send it to friends and family. What could go wrong? What makes this a little bit more expensive as a playtest? You're not playtesting with a teammate, you're playtesting with someone who didn't even know you're working on a game. What makes that a bit more expensive logistically to do? And time really matters, right? We're really focusing on time because in the world of game dev, any serious creative exercise is like always bottlenecked by time, okay? Sometimes by money, yes?
Maybe like your family members like haven't touched a controller ever in their life that don't even know how to look around.
Yeah!
So,
Exactly. You send your web build to a friend and they say, well, oh, I clicked on the link, but I don't see anything. You don't see anything. And you do some debugging and you realize they're using Internet Explorer on an old Windows Vista installation that they haven't updated yet. And you're like, oh, okay, we just lost an hour, all right, but, you know, whatever. At least I eventually got them to play it. Or maybe they only have their phone on them, so they have to go get a laptop out, right? They're part of the iPad app generation, so they just got their iPad, that's it. And your game doesn't work with iPad, so now you have to get them to the library to play on the library machine. And so it's a bit more expensive. It can be. All right, it's going to require a bit more setup than your teammates who are working on the game. You already know they have the equipment to play the game because they're working on the game, right? But the quality of data is going to be a bit better, okay? A little bit better yet. Your friends have less invested in your success than you do or your teammates do. But have you ever had like your good friends walk up to you and tell you, My God, Austin, like, what happened to you? You look horrible today.
Damn.
Like, your fashion is just like, what on earth is this? Okay? Like, you wore that to bed last night, didn't you? Have your friends never, your friends have never said that to you? Yeah? Okay. I feel you. Most of the time, yeah, my friends have told that to me, I think, once or twice. Most of the time, your good friends are not going to tell that to you. Why? Because they do have investment in you. They care about you. They care about the relationship with you. They are biasing. They are tainting the feedback that they give with the fact that they're trying to maintain a relationship with you and they want to see you happy. Okay? Some people, sometimes they're known as yes men, if you've ever heard that phrase. They are only concerned about whether you are happy right now. Okay? And they could care less about the truth or about giving you an honest feel of the situation. They just want you to be happy. That is it. And chances are those are not your true friends. But your true friends also will probably not wreck you. If you have the world's worst game, they'll probably come and say, Austin, yeah, it's all right. You gotta, like, it's not bad, but you need more time, right? You need more time. You gotta fix a couple things, and then it'll be much better, right? So you're still getting biased results, but pretty good data nonetheless. Stuff that you can actually legitimately start to use. What is next here? Everyone, what is next? We got to go up the chain. We have to get a higher quality of feedback, and we're willing to pay a little bit more in time to get that higher quality. What can we do? What can we do? We're sick of playtesting with friends and family. We think they're pulling our leg. We really need higher quality data. We're going to spend a little bit more to get it. Yes?
Experimental design, asking like a survey of people.
Other people. Maybe people you don't know. Exactly. Bingo. Very good. So next, we can start thinking about kind of our local area, right? So people who we might know, but just very vaguely or distantly, right? People who you might see walking through your dormitory, or maybe in one of the buildings. In the Viz Studio, you set up your game, and as people walk in, you say, hey, I'm making a game. Could I get 5 minutes of your time to just, get some feedback? And people might say yes, they might say no. They don't know you, so they don't have a lot invested in that relationship. You don't have a relationship, okay? And so you're going to get very high quality feedback, but you will need to go out there and you'll need to work to collect people and convince them to, play your game for a few minutes. So it's a bit more expensive. The quality is higher, but is it perfect? Again, very few people are going to walk up to you on the street and tell you what they really feel, if what they really feel is very negative. Sometimes this will happen, and it's very uncomfortable when it does. But if you're wearing something like hideous, okay, and you just walk through downtown Ann Arbor, chances are you'll just be ignored. If you ask someone about, I'm wearing this thing, I'm just trying it out. I got a new hairstyle. I've got a new, fashion thing I'm trying out. You can tell I don't do that much, huh? And what are they going to say? If they hate it, they're probably not going to tell you it's awful, it's trash. This is the worst thing I've seen all day. Even if they feel that way, they won't say it. Why won't they say it? They don't know you. They don't have a relationship. They don't care about that. But they do care about something.
Social norms.
Social norms, yep, that's a big part of it. They also care about their own safety, okay? Because walking up to someone and saying, you are the worst thing I've seen all day, that is a nasty thing to say. Even if it is true in their head, they're not going to say it because they don't want to get swinged at, okay? Or they don't want to get knocked out. So, right? I would say if you do a lot of playtesting in these 2 layers, you're golden. You're going to make it, okay? This is going to be really good for your game, and it's going to be a great situation, okay? But inevitably, we must travel to one final layer. We must travel deep into the bowels of humanity, okay? And we must release our game somewhere very scary. Where are we releasing our game? At the very final moment. We've done all the playtesting we can. We made the best game we can. And now it's time to prepare ourselves mentally for the internet. This is the public, okay? You've put your software, your game, your experience, your film, whatever, your comic, onto the internet. There will be no mercy, okay? There will be no mercy. And if people feel a certain way about your game, they're going to say it, okay? Because they have no relationship with you. They don't even really probably recognize a human made it. They forget that most of the time. If they just are having a bad day, they don't care, okay? They're going to go on Steam. They're going to write a nasty review. They might even try and find your email address and send you a letter just telling you how you ruined their day, okay? It's like my fella, like the game is free, okay? So you didn't have to play it. You could have just put it down. Like, I'm not trying to ruin your day. But when you put your game, in a very serious sense, you are going to release your game on Steam or itch.io on the Nintendo eShop. You're going to put your game out there to the public where you will lose control of the game. And it just has to go out there and survive as best it can, right? It's kind of like you got a child you're so proud of, but they have to go off to college. They have to go off and do their own thing. They got to leave the nest, right? So this is a situation you kind of have to mentally prepare for. But I will tell you this. The worst outcomes always happen when you do all of your playtesting down here, and then eventually you are forced to make that horrible jump from here all the way to here, okay? A lot of indie devs, they spend all their playtesting either with themselves or with only a few people on their team or family or friends, and then they release to the internet and they are not ready. They're not ready at all. Mentally, and their game is not ready either. They release to the internet, they've skipped these intermediate steps, and boom, explosions, okay? And it's not a pretty sight. Your best bet, okay, your only hope is to progress up this ladder at kind of an even pace, okay? You start making a game and you're just playtesting it with yourself. If you don't like the game, probably no one else will. But you playtest with your team, and as you're getting more comfortable, you start to spend more time bringing your game out to the public, to friends and family, eventually to your local area where, you've got some friends, some friendly faces who will give you 90% of the truth, but in a way that will probably protect your mental health. And then eventually, if you spend enough time up there, you can release to the internet, and not that much will change, probably, okay? But it's hard to say. The internet's a pretty scary place. So, this is how you often want to do it. This is the progression, the chain of playtesting that you want to try and stick to. If you spend too much time in one of these layers, you're setting yourself up for some pain later, okay? So notice that as quantity goes up and quality, well, at least honesty goes up, intimacy also goes down. And so you should mentally prepare yourself, and then you will be okay, all right? There are some special types of playtesters as well. These ones are kind of interesting. So you've got the professional playtester. This is someone who has been trained, who is paid only to playtest, and they are usually very good at it. On the Sims 4 team, a quick story from that game, I think his name was Ricardo. He was behind us at a desk, right behind my desk. I could turn around and see him. And he was an embedded Q&A professional tester, very much a member of the team. And what would happen is someone on the gameplay team would have some new features that they wanted to have tested. Like, hey, I just built this new system and I tested it a little bit myself. I think it's in good shape. Ricardo, would you take a crack at it and let me know what you find? And Ricardo would say, okay, sure, right? I'll let you know in a few hours. And I would go off to do something else or go to a meeting, and then I would come back, and Ricardo would say, hey, Austin, yeah, I sent you an email, broke your game in about 3 different ways, or broke your feature in about 3 different ways, all right? It's like, you didn't test this, you didn't test this, you didn't test this. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I would look at the email, and I actually had footage and reproduction steps. Like Austin, you can reproduce the bug every time. You just got to do this, and then this, and then this, and then walk your sim over here, and then wait until it's exactly 2 p.m., and then do the thing, and it breaks. Like, oh my goodness. Wow, thank you. And that makes debugging way easier, okay? Way, way, way easier. And what's more, often the feedback you get from a playtester won't be very good. You are all going to become playtesters for other people in the course. Your friends, the people sitting next to you, will be getting footage of you playing the game. You'll be commenting on the game, and as part of that, you really want to do a good job for your friends. This is not a zero-sum course, okay? You can all get A+s if you're all doing A+ work. I think in the School of Business, they got some really hardcore, crazy policies where it's like, hey, students, hey, you all did a great job, but I only have 15 A's I can give out.
That's so stupid.
Oh my goodness. All right, wow. So, yeah, like 15 A's, I got 15 B's for the rest of you, and then the rest of you, I don't know what I'm going to have left, okay? So, I've definitely, have you heard of some courses like that? I think certain institutions say, like, just by default, we're going to fail the bottom 20% of the entire course, no matter how good you are. I thought that was always kind of silly.
Who does that?
So,
Psychopaths.
yeah, speaking of that, Amazon and Microsoft. So there's a hiring and firing policy, I believe, called stack ranking, which was popular, much more popular, I think, in the 90s and early 2000s, where essentially, like every year, every team had to rank all of their members. And the bottom, like 10 to 20% of the members were just automatically fired. It's kind of rough. And what they discovered was that while this did create a certain competitiveness that maybe improved some outcomes, it also created a culture and atmosphere of mistrust. And it made it very hard to collaborate with anyone. Because, like, hey, like, if I collaborate and someone else gets credit for my work, like, I'm on the chopping block, and, you know, that's going to be a big problem, right? So I imagine it made things even more cliquey than big companies and teams tend to be anyway. So it's kind of spooky. Anyway, all right. So, help each other out. You want to be the world's best playtester because then those people in the course are going to see your great feedback and they're really going to appreciate you for it. And so you want to constantly be thinking about and giving good advice and, like, you know, maybe you could try this, try this. This is what I felt. The best thing you can do when you're giving a playtest is just speak your mind. As an emotion enters your head, say it, because we can't really read your mind. Though technology is making that easier and easier all the time. Okay, let's talk about playtesting technologies. Anyone heard of this game? It's pretty cool. Interesting. It's like usually people just nod. They're like, yeah, it's a great game. And now I'm getting like some, yeah, I know Overwatch 2 was a bit controversial. They canceled my single player mode. Oh my gosh. Okay, story. So I'm in undergrad, and Overwatch is like threatening to come out. and I say threatening because, like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose all my time to this game because the trailers are coming out, and there's a big Blizzard, beautiful cinematic trailers, and the character designs are just crazy cool. I love the color palettes, and the art style is like kind of anime cartoon, which is just super great. And I'm super cool. The character shorts, they're telling me about, okay, like Winston and Tracer are like best friends, and like Winston's a scientist and Tracer's super fast. Like, I can't wait to get into the game and play like a co-op mission. I'm going to be Tracer and Winston's going to be there. We're going to like save the day. It's going to be awesome. Okay? And then my first match in the game, I'm like, that's weird. There's no story mode. There's no campaign or arcade mode. What's going on? And I get into my first match and I walk outside and I immediately see a Winston player just murder a Tracer player in front of my eyes. And I'm like, they're your friends. What is going on here? And my opinion never quite recovered after that. right? It's like it just shattered everything. You built up these characters and their relationships in the universe, and then immediately it's just, yeah, just go shoot each other. What? Okay, anyway, I'm salty about losing my story mode. Okay, so anyway, Overwatch, a very well-regarded game generally. I want to show you some footage of Overwatch that kind of demonstrates a window into the player's mind. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm about to show you a player who's not playing normally. They're playing with a set of very cool glasses on. These glasses, these are the Pupil Labs glasses, I believe. It has 3 cameras. It has one camera that's facing outward, okay? Kind of like some of these smart glasses you see today. It also has one that is inward, looking at this pupil, and a second one that is inward, looking at this pupil. And so as a result, we have a lot of information, actually, about where the player is looking. We can do some math, as you see in the corners of the screen. We can use some trigonometry to figure out where the player is looking just based on the shape and angle of their pupils. And so, very, very cool stuff. As you watch this footage, remember this. If we know where the player is looking, we probably know what they're thinking. And so watch what happens as the player goes through the game, and watch what happens to their eyes. What do they do and at what moment? It's going to be really eye-opening for you. Let's take a look. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Okay. Watch this coming up right here. The match is about 3, 2, 1. What happens to their eyes right here? Look at this. Think, oh no, our composition is awful. Okay, they're running out. Look at where their eyes are. Their eyes are not in the corners of the screen. Well, they're just doing calibration stuff. Where are their eyes? What are they thinking about? They're hunting for enemies. Eyes on the horizon, eyes on the horizon. You see the enemy first, you're going to win. So I see the enemy, lock on. The eyes don't even move. The eyes lock on to the enemy. They're fully engaged. Enemy defeated, check corner, check corner. Okay? Okay. Lock on to enemy, enemy, threat, dealt with, check corner, okay? Why is this happening? The player's eyes are locked on to the opponent, but then the opponent is defeated, and we get this really common pattern where the eyes go boink, boink. What on earth is happening? Why would they be doing this?
Checking their health.
They're checking what's in the corner.
The health.
Their health meter's in the corner. It's right over here. What's over here?
Abilities.
Their abilities, their cooldowns, okay? Health and ammo down here. The abilities and cooldowns down here. Why would they care? At that moment in the gameplay, the enemy has been defeated, so why are they checking these things? Yes?
I mean, they'll still have enemies to defeat afterward.
Exactly. If they check the corners of the screen and their health and ammo is super low, they got no abilities ready to go, that affects their decision making, doesn't it? What might they want to do in that situation? Do they want to go find another enemy to fight? No. Bail. Go find some supplies, get yourself pumped up again, and get ready to go. Then you can return. But if you're in good shape, like this player was, defeated several enemies, staying in good shape, what do you do next? Well, you go and find another enemy. Don't waste time going and collecting things. You're good to go. Move on. Because of our ability, because of this data, this technology, we have a very strong understanding of that decision moment in the gameplay. Games that succeed are constantly giving you interesting decisions. They're creating tension where you have to make a choice. Look at the situation, make a choice, and then discover how it plays out. And then you update your approach, your strategy, and you see if that improves yourself over time or not. That is really the core of what makes games engaging in a very general sense. And we can see that so visibly here, so clearly, clear as day. And so, right, the eyes are a very good window into the player's brain. We can't read your brain, but if we could read your eyes, we have a good sense of what you are thinking about. If you can't read the eyes, you can read the body language, okay? Right? Because someone might tell you they're having a great time, but their body language may say something totally different, okay? If they're distracted, looking at their watch, if they're not talking with anyone, right? They don't seem very engaged, they're looking around, just kind of stiff, they're probably not into it, all right? Okay. So, very expensive eyeglasses, but I kind of want to get some because I think it could be really cool, actually. Let people check them out. And if my next game sells 1 million copies, I'll buy some. Okay? All right, I promise you. All right, so there are lots of other cool technologies, too. If you are making a website, which you should all do at some point, right? This is the digital age, the digital era. You should have a digital portfolio for sure. You will have one at the end of the course. I'm just going to give you the daily model gallery. But browsershots.org is a really cool tool. I don't know if it's still up, but when it was up, it was really, really great. What are you looking at right here? You are looking at my portfolio page at ayarger.com. Don't laugh. It hasn't been updated in like a decade. Actually, no, I'll show it to you. It's kind of cool. I don't know. So this used to be multiplayer, but you can swim around like a little fish. You can click to shoot torpedoes. I used to have a third button here. I don't even remember what it was, though. That was just a weird gap. If you shoot the, if you shoot the thing, you go to the page. It's kind of cool. It used to be multiplayer, so you could see other people's fish, but the server went down, and I'm too lazy to stand it back up. Anyway, so does your website work in every browser under the sun? You think, well, it works in Chrome. That's good enough, right? Maybe. But there are actually a lot of browsers out there that people use. Firefox, okay, that's an obvious one. But does your website work in Lynx 2.8? Have you ever heard of that? No? Yeah. Me neither. I didn't even know that was the thing. What about SeaMonkey on Ubuntu? Does anyone know what Ubuntu is? Linux, right? Linux distribution, yep. Very popular Linux operating system. Opera is down there. That's kind of not that popular, but kind of popular, I guess. There's Dillo. Did you know there's a browser called Dillo? And by the way, this is what my portfolio website looks like if you use the Dillo web browser. What happened was they took the 5 buttons that I have at the top of my website. They got rid of all the fun stuff on the bottom. And they was like, how can we make the most boring browser possible? And this is how they did it, okay? So it just kind of gets rid of all the fancy stuff. It only renders the most basic HTML elements you might have in your website, or not. There's another big concern for game developers these days. There are a lot of mobile phones out there, aren't there? Okay? There are lots of iPhones, and they're all kind of similar-ish, right? But what about Oppo? Does anyone know Oppo? You don't know Oppo? Oppo is really cool phones. It's a Chinese brand that's gotten very big. There is Samsung Galaxy. There's OnePlus, which is a brand that I really like. I think it's really good. There's Google Pixel. HTC. Sony is still kind of sort of making smartphones. And so what happens if you build your game and you're always testing it only on iPhone? Is it going to work on Android? Is it going to work on Google Pixel Android? Is it going to work on Samsung Android? Is it going to work on some strange device you've never heard of, but it's really popular in India? You don't know, right?
Is the term for that still portability? If you're thinking like phone to phone or computer to computer?
Yeah, I think so. So in the game engine architecture course, portability is a big topic. Because something I didn't mention is that the game engine you're going to create, if you want to get all the points for that week's homework, you have to pass all the AutoGrader test cases correctly. You have to do it fast enough. And then you have to pass it on Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux. Now that sounds really nasty, but actually it's not that hard to write portable C++ code. The big challenge is you have to get a feel for how Visual Studio works and builds, the build process there. You have to get used to Make, which you already get used to in Makefile, 281, 280. And then you have to get used to Xcode, which is like everyone's least favorite, code building program, IDE, build system, whatever you want to call it. I would call it portability still. Amazon Device Farm lets you do all this cheaply. Check out how your game runs, how your software runs on any device you can imagine. In the early days of my company, Arbor Interactive, if we wanted to test our game On my phone, I could do it easily because I just had my phone. But if I wanted to test it on the latest Samsung Galaxy device, and that's really important because the phone has a very different screen and aspect ratio than a squarish tablet does. What would I have to do? You know what I had to do? It's a big pain and very expensive. I had to go to Best Buy and buy the Samsung Galaxy tablet. That was super expensive because it's a new device, but I have to test my software on the newest device, right? At least a few of them, and then hope it works on the other expensive ones. And it's a never-ending expense. Do you know why? Because next year, there's a new device. Oh no, and it's got a new big price tag. Oh, what am I going to do? Brutal. Well, Amazon Device Farm solves this problem in a really magical, cheap way. Because you know what you can do? You upload your executable, your APK if it's on Android. You upload it to Amazon Device Farm, just a few clicks in your web browser, and you choose what kind of device you want to install it on. And Amazon has a big warehouse, it seems, or maybe they're running some emulators, I don't know. They are having all these devices, they just buy them themselves, and they let you rent time testing on those devices. So I load my APK, I can see, oh, my game seems to be running, and look at all the screenshots are coming through. It seems to be playing through the game. Is it using a super fancy AI player to play through your game? No. You know what it's doing? It is randomly simulating taps all over the screen as fast as it can, spamming the screen with taps, and they figure that, yeah, probably by chance we'll play through the game, you know, and you'll get some information about, like, does it crash? How does it run? How much memory does it use? It might not get through the whole game, but it will actually kind of, depending on the game, it might get pretty far. You can see stats about how it's doing, what the performance is like. You can see the logs, if there are any errors that pop up only on that device. You can run tests. You can do all sorts of stuff. Here's a game I made for a children's meal prep YouTube channel. I didn't know such a thing was big, but their videos get hundreds of thousands of views every couple of days. It's really amazing. So they wanted me to make this game, and so I was making it. They wanted it to be a match 3 game, and so I made a match 3 game. You kind of drive around. It's kind of cute, right? You drive around and you go to cafeterias and you try and serve the students. Okay, kind of cool. The problem, though, is that it looked really great on my laptop and on my phone. But when I went to the Samsung Galaxy tablet, the aspect ratio was doing something pretty nasty. Do you see that right up there?
Ooh.
It's cutting my art off. What the heck? Okay, my UI is all messed up. That's not good. I did these tests like 2 days before we were supposed to launch. That's spooky. Okay, very spooky. What's more, this is not the end of the world because, like, you can kind of still hit the button and it's not that important anyway. It just takes you back to the main menu. Not a big deal. But this is what gameplay is supposed to look like. Okay? And so you've got this conveyor belt and you've got this grid of things here. It's kind of fun. Like, when you match 3, it creates the item and it falls down. If the item falls onto the nasty, dirty tray, you get 0 points. You have to try and build as many items on the conveyor belt as you can to make a whole meal. And the healthier the meal, the bigger a combo you get. It's kind of cool. But the problem is, on the Samsung Galaxy tablet, look at this. Oh my goodness. We actually have important elements of gameplay totally cut off. That's what all of my users would have had to deal with if I didn't catch this in time. But because of our playtesting approach and the technology we used, we were able to find the problem and fix it really quickly. How did we fix it? Well, we didn't have any time left. So you know what we did? I took the cheapest way out. Have you ever seen a film that has black bars? So it turns out you can fix most aspect ratios with black bars. And depending on what phone you have, they'll be more or less visible, but most of the time, players won't even notice they're there. Okay, and that fixed our aspect ratio. I wrote some code to calculate how much and how big the black bars would need to be, but then it worked on the device, and the problem was solved. Okay, there are more interesting technologies when it comes to playtesting, but I think maybe we'll talk about those next time. Next week, on Wednesday. Because remember, on Monday, we're going to have the play test. You don't have to do it on Monday. You have the entire week to do it, but I'm going to give you that Monday slot to kind of give you some of your time back, okay? And I'm going to be announcing how these play tests work and how you need to do them over the weekend. So don't worry about it now. In fact, this is probably going to turn into a link telling you what to do. So you can just click the link. You'll get a Google document. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do to get the points on the next homework that correspond to the playtesting. Hopefully it'll be fun. But, put your best foot forward, okay? And definitely try and get the homework finished if you can. Because if you don't finish the homework, you can't submit the form. And if you don't submit the form, you're not going to get all those awesome videos of people playing your game. And it's probably also not going to end up on your final portfolio either, which would be really sad. So do your best to get started on this homework. It is not a huge homework, but those last two problems are kind of substantial. Okay, we got lots of footage for you, so if you're feeling really lost, watch the footage. Try and get a feel for what we're saying in the footage and why you're doing what you're doing. Don't just kind of, thoughtlessly click on the things I show you to click on, all right? Even if you don't have a whole lot of game dev experience, you're trying to build out your mental model now so that you can make predictions about how game engines work so that when this course ends, you can just rock and roll. You don't even need me anymore. You don't need the course staff. You can go and make your dreams come true, okay? All right. Everyone, thank you for being here. It's good to see you. And I hope, you can rock and roll on all this stuff, okay? Try not to work too hard. Schedule your time well so you can get lots of good sleep and eat all those meals you got to eat. Get good nutrition. And that will make your learning process actually way, way better, okay? Or you can do what I do, and you can just wait till like the weekend, and then you can stay up with me all night, Sunday night, and we'll just I'll finish the next homework, you finish the current homework, okay? On that Sunday night, all right? We can come to class all tired. All right. I'll probably still be here on Mondays because we'll probably turn this to like extra office hours where I just kind of hang out here. You show up if you need something, okay? All right, office hours goes for the next hour, okay? And I will see you all later. Okay, I'm not sure if the recording booth is available now, but get in there, get some extra credit, okay? Remember, if you have to record via laptop, you'll get the points for the homework, no extra credit though, okay? So, recording booth is so cool. Oh my gosh, it's so quiet in there. It's so nice, it's super cool. All right, see you later. And everyone online, I will see you later as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.